Hello everyone, welcome. Welcome to today's Notion event. Before I get into the agenda, maybe just introduce myself. I'm Jesslyn. I am a Notion ambassador. What ambassadors do is that we are actually passionate individuals who speak and build community for Notion. So for the past few months, I think we've had one event per month for Notion in Singapore. You can feel free to chat with us, or if you want to get plugged into the latest or the next event, we have a Telegram group as well as a website, a Notion website actually. So you can feel free to check that out. What we do as passionate individuals, not only community building, but we also get access to the earliest features, and you get the alpha and beta testings. If you are someone who's also passionate about Notion itself, feel free to let us know. You can apply to be an ambassador. Vanessa is right behind, she knows best. And so for today, the main event, we'll go through, we'll have a few speakers. First, we will have Nicholas, who will talk about the evolution of Notion. Before, we have one of our ambassadors, Nasri, who will speak about his work building workers at his Notion consulting firm. I will talk about a little bit about mine, how AI might be taking over my job, maybe. And then we'll end off with a Q&A with Randy, who is the head of design at Notion itself. So without further ado, I'm going to hand my time to Nicholas.
Testing. Okay, cool. So I'm Nicholas. I'm an engineer based in San Francisco, but I'm Singaporean and very happy to be back here to talk to you guys about Notion Dev Platform. We launched that 2 weeks ago. But to put that all into context, I'm also going to bring you guys through a journey on the evolution of Notion to put all the new features into context. So one of the grounding beliefs we have at Notion is that the most meaningful things were never built alone. Whether it's your favorite music album, your favorite sports team, or even invention of like the coolest gadgets, computers, Raspberry Pis for me, they were always done as teams. And let me show you what that means to us at Notion.
The most meaningful things were never built alone. It's always groups of people building and believing until something clicks. Thinking together is innate to us. Painted cables, campfire stories, playing chess even though machines do it better. Togetherness gives us meaning. About a year ago, we took a hard look at where AI was headed. The future felt lonely and unsettling. Billion-dollar companies with a solo founder behind a chat window. No need for teamwork. Humans are friction. We think that gets the future wrong. Making each person 10 times faster doesn't make a company 10 times better. That's a story of efficiency and cost. AI should be a story of abundance. More minds on any problem, more opportunities, more people doing their life's work. Notion has always been a tool for people to think together. Now, we're building AI that belongs in that space, not behind one person's screen, but inside a team's collective memory, working alongside everyone. Every team in the world deserves it. With dedicated AI teams. The fintech startup in New York with more ambition than people. The Australian healthcare experts giving doctors time back. The 3 founders in Lagos who don't know yet what they're about to become. The best things in humanity haven't been built yet. They will be built by us together.
Okay, so that's the message. We built the best things together, but talk is cheap. So I have evidence how Notion has been doing this across the past 12 years. So this is kind of like a timeline of our major releases. You can see even from the start, we started with Notion blocks, modular architecture for you to build your documents. We then had databases for you to build systems on top of. This is how you collaborate with your human teammates. And recently with AI, you can kind of see that we have more and more AI features that are getting built in because we're recognizing that AI is also part of your team. Two interesting things to note here. You can kind of see the spacing between all the major releases. Things are getting faster and faster, quicker and quicker with AI. In fact, just this year alone in 2026, we had custom agents launch in February, and we now have the dev platform launching in May. So what used to take maybe a year between major releases is now on the order of months. The world is changing quickly. The second thing I would like to highlight, fun fact, Notion AI launched even before ChatGPT. We got early access to the ChatGPT models, and we really quickly saw that that was going to be a future of how productivity would work, how AI would factor into our teamwork. And we launched the alpha in November, even before ChatGPT, just 2 weeks before. So yeah. So going straight into Notion Developer Platform and the features that we have, I'm going to talk about 4 features that really highlight how the developer platform unlocks collaboration and teamwork, both with humans and agents. So the first thing you have in the worker, in the dev platform is syncs, bringing data into Notion for richer context. And by the way, as I'm going through these features, we'll have a demo at the end of how this ties together. So I'm just going to rattle off the features for now, and we'll kind of present a picture of how this ties together. So yeah, syncs. First, you're going to bring data into Notion. Even though Notion is a platform that can do everything, we recognize that a lot of teams still like their custom-built software. So for example, you might have Zendesk for customer support, right? You have a lot of customer support tickets going in. That's actually valuable information, not just for your customer support team for operations, but you actually want to know that for, say, product marketing or even product development, right? When I build a feature, I want to know that it's something people are actually asking for. And so having that data into Notion allows me to make decisions with confidence. We'll show you more about it in a bit. The second feature is tools. You can supercharge Notion AI, enabling it to do anything you can imagine. So in the past, with Notion AI, you can only just do things in your workspace. You might have access to the web to do some searches, but you can't really do anything outside of Notion, but that is no longer true. What tools basically is you can write small bits of TypeScript code to wrap around external services. And that sounds really scary, but in today's world, we're starting to believe that everyone can write code even if you don't have a coding background. I think most of us recognize that to be true. Fun story here with such tools. I have a coworker who likes to use Notion to plan his meals, and he wrote a tool to then go beyond just planning the meal, but also place grocery orders for his meal next week. So there's a lot of things you can extend to, even like integration with a grocery shopping platform. Like, why would Notion build that? Just build it yourself. You can do anything you want now. The third thing would be bringing your favorite agent into Notion. So there's many types of different AI agents. We recognize that different AI agents are good at very specific things. So if you need to do something specific, you may not want to do all of it in Notion. For example, I'm not going to use Notion AI to build a video, an AI video, right? I might have a specialized AI for that, but there's still value to doing it in Notion. Like before I make the video, I need to craft a storyboard. I need to work with my team to decide what I want in that video. Do it in Notion and then dispatch it out to the right agent to do the right piece of work for it. Again, we'll show you this in the demo, how that works. The last bit here is triggering Notion workflows from anywhere, because not all work starts in Notion. So here in this graphic, we kind of have a few examples of how it works. The earlier one is actually my favorite one, where a candidate signs offer and you want to do onboarding for them. So when someone signs a candidate offer, you generally want to start preparing for onboarding them, right? You would prepare some onboarding documents, some welcome documents to get them started. Usually that's pretty manual. You'll get I get an email notification, I gotta go in, I gotta duplicate a document. Now that is no longer true. You can have your ATS, your applicant tracking system, generate that event when it's done, call it into Notion, and Notion is like, oh, someone new is starting. Let's prepare a document for them without any of the busy work. You want to invite them, you don't want to necessarily move the documents along. So you can now just focus on your task of making them feel welcome. So as you build all these things, you might be thinking, I'm not an engineer, how does this all work? Well, you don't have to worry. All of this is on a managed runtime. What this basically means is that even though you'll be writing bits of code, at the end of the day, this all runs on Notion's platform. We'll worry about keeping it running and making it performant and alive all the time. Things that regular engineers myself will have to figure out, we'll do it for you, so you don't have to worry about it. So yeah, with all these features coming together, we really think that Notion is the best place for you to collaborate with your human teammates, but also your future incoming agent teammates. So here's a whole list of features and reasons why you should use Notion. But let's just go into the demo, and I think you can capture the essence of like why that works much better. So I'm gonna start and pause this a bunch of times because I can't speak that fast, but we'll start with this. I have a task board of a bunch of tasks that I want to work on, right? This is pretty normal, we'll see this all the time. I'm gonna start working on my first task, show deleted blocks. So this is what it looks like in Notion. You can have a task, you can open it, and there's a bunch of stuff that you have to do here. We have a problem, why do we work on this? The first thing we have here is that we see that Claude agent had commented on the task. It asked me a question, which would you like to go with? I'm actually not sure. So as an engineer, what I would do is I would tag in my product manager. So I'm gonna go, MJ, what do you think? What are users asking for, right? I'm gonna tap in my human coworker to help. Unfortunately, my human coworker doesn't know that either. MJ goes, I actually don't know, and she tags in Decagon Duet. So Decagon Duet is an agent that we've built that is able to use the data syncs that we talk about to pull information from Decagon, which is a customer support platform. And you can see in this response here, it's like, hey, we asked that question and now we come back with 5 tickets of customers asking that thing, right? So when I make a decision to work on the task, it is backed with confidence that it is something my customers are asking for. And I don't have to go to my customer support team to like, make me a report from your tickets, I gotta wait 2 weeks, and like, no, we get it all like pretty instantly. The next thing that's cool here is while all of this is happening, I don't have to stop here. I can actually go into the task where we have an implementation spec. So in just a bit, I'll scroll down. You'll see a bunch of details that were filled in by Claude. So these are implementation details. How should we go about implementing this? And I can further collaborate with more people on my team. So for example, I can highlight this thing here and comment, hey, Dan, is this a good approach? Dan is an engineer on my team, and here is how we kind of decide on technical decisions. Interesting to note here, this all comes out for free out of the box because Notion is built for collaboration. It's not stuck in some markdown file that you have to figure out, man, am I gonna copy paste this into Slack? How are we gonna figure it out? You get all of that collaboration for free out of the box. So now that we've gone back and forth on some of the requirements, we'll go back up and I'm gonna tag my coding agent to come back in to work. We talked about external agents, right? So here, I'm gonna tag in Claude agent, hey, sounds like our requirements are clear, go work on it. And Claude is able to do a good job because it has the context all across this document from why we're doing it, who's asking for it, and how do we go about doing it from the technical details. So you can see Claude agent kind of replied with, hey, I wrote a PR for you, and here's a link to the actual PR. Typically, this is when an engineer would go in and review the code. I'm a little lazy. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask a second agent to come in. I'm gonna tag in Codex and say, review this PR first before I go take a look, because yeah, I'm a little lazy. So here, I can tag Codex, go in and review the PR. Codex will be like, cool, I reviewed the PR, I caught a bunch of stuff, and I fixed it for you, right? So really multiple agents and multiple humans collaborating in the document at the same time, all fulfilling their specialized roles. So what we just went through was for a single task, right? The life cycle of a single task. You're never just working on a single task. Every project has tons of tasks from all kinds of statuses. And how do you manage all that work that's ongoing at the same time? So this is kind of like the UI of how that works. If you look at this Kanban board, every column kind of corresponds with an agent that we talked about earlier, from gathering user voice with Decagon, proposing fixes from Claude, automated code review from Codex, and finally to human review for myself. All your tasks progress through this board in a visually interactive way, and I can keep track of all the work that's going on. It's not like 5 agents in a Tmux terminal, like you gotta tab around and figure it out. It's in a very visual way that's very intuitive for both a technical person like myself, but also my non-technical coworkers. Fun thing about this UI is that it's very easy to go back and do similar things. So for example, in human review, if I didn't like the way it was done with show deleted blocks, I could add more context to it. I could add comments like, you know what, let's not go with this approach, let's go with something else. And I could just drag this back into an earlier column like, hey Claude, go and fix this again with additional context, and it will be able to do it. So this UX is kind of great for collaborating both, again, with humans and agents. So yeah, that's it for the demo. If you guys have questions, we'll be around with the Notion jackets to talk about Notion. And next up, I'm going to invite Nasri to present the next part.
How's everyone doing tonight? Good, good. Okay, hi. My name is Nasri. I am a Notion ambassador since 2025. I'm also currently a Notion consultant, working for an AI consultancy at Workflowers. We are a Singaporean AI agency, and we help small teams and also early stage startups get started with Notion with lesser friction. So you can find us on the marketplace as well. And today I'm going to be talking about the workers that we use at Workflowers. So the workers that was created today was done by our founder, me, and also 2 more ambassadors here in Notion. Together with them, we are consulting for Workflowers. Yeah. Okay. So today we're going to share a bit more about my journey. So who here is non-technical? Coming into tech? Okay, quite a lot of people. Okay, so yeah, if you guys are also, I'm also non-technical. Okay, so this is my journey. Actually 5 years ago, I was a GrabFood rider during COVID period. Right, I lost my job. Then I did do GrabFood for a living, and sorry, guys. Okay, so I started out as a GrabFood rider, and then along the way, I tried to pivot. I tried to find pockets of opportunities to improve myself. And after that, I didn't realize that I started this journey to be a Notion. So Notion definitely changed my life. And that's how I became an ambassador. Being an ambassador means that I would be able to provide and give back to the community. And I also now run quite a number of events already. I also do a bit of collaborations with OpenClaw and other events. I try to find opportunities to give back and share with the wider community because it has benefited me, right? Okay, so you can see some of the pictures there. Okay, so today, Seek Worker is one of the things that we also use at Workers. I think Nicholas explained what Workers actually means. It allows you to pull any data that you can think of. As long as it has an API, you can write it into a Notion database, and that itself is super strong, right? Previously, what we couldn't do was maybe import our favorite Spotify playlist, but now we can, right? And we can do so much more, right? It's infinite, the amount of things that we can do now. And not only that, recently Notion released what we call dashboard views. And this is one of the best tools out there that you can sync with data and live data. We know that the data that we pull from a worker is actually real data, and it is sync. So we'll always be able to know upfront that the data is real. That means that we know that whenever we see a dashboard, it reflects the real figures, and you can happily show this to your bosses, right? Nobody wants to go and read like a database full of data now, right? So you can show this dashboard. It has a nice view. You have like key metrics, you have graphs. You can also show like different tables and different filters along with this, for example, like a finance dashboard. So like imagine you have your revenue, your loss, and you can compare this with like all the different other figures as well as a marketing dashboard. So imagine all your analytics being pulled into Notion, right? And then you'll be able to see upfront across all your different tools. And that's what we are actually trying to solve at our own company. So now, this is a picture of our dashboard. You can see here on the left, we have social analytics, website analytics, and our newsletter analytics. And this is how the dashboard views like. And the thing that we were trying to solve was actually the analytics from our website. So essentially what we can do is we can then use a sync worker to actually bring the data over. Okay, so if you guys want to see how that workflow goes, though this is a bit, looks like a bit complex, but actually if you can use a coding agent right now, you can describe how you want to sync it and essentially plan it out first in Notion. Notion even also has a plan mode if you are not aware, and you can just type this into your Notion AI first. Once you type it in, it will actually come up with the workflows for you. So this is an example of how we can actually build this with a worker. Okay, so the top part here is basically what it does is it triggers a sync every hour, the workers trigger, and there's two workers currently pulling two different datas, right? It goes to the Google Analytics API, and then it pulls the metrics over and it updates the database. And this database is then inserted into a sync database. A sync database is a little bit different, and I will show you how it looks like later. And at the end of the day, at the end, they'll just, you can then use charts and dashboards. So that's what that means. Okay, so this is how a sync database looks like. You can differentiate it by this portion here, it's called sync. And the sync database is pretty much read-only. So it ensures that reliability, right? You don't want to suddenly mess around or have someone in your team mess around with your data. And that will actually help you gain more confidence, right? And you can also still add new properties into Notion, pretty much like different properties, different tags, and you can filter and sort and group this data. And here's the reason why I think everyone here also might be thinking about, right? Why should you use workers instead of agents? Hey, I have like a Zapier, N8N workflow that I've used. In fact, our company is also like using Zapier all of the time. So we do also consider like what is important for us, when to use workers, when to use Zapier, and I'll explain that later as well. But essentially the reason why this is good, because Nicholas has mentioned Notion handles the infra. Previously, when I talk about agents, I did OpenClaw last time, and it was such a pain to set up like a server and maintain your own server. So I understand like the benefit of having Notion handle this. So like, it's super cool. And being a non-technical person myself, I don't understand code. So I typically just describe to my AI agent what I want to code, and the agent will code for me. So some of you guys are Cloud Code users here. I'm sure you guys know, right? It's easier nowadays to code. And the good part is the data is curable, meaning it's like you can use the data that you have already and then use Notion AI as the top layer, right? You can use the AI, you can search for information, you can find out like, hey, like for example, our marketing dashboard, we can find out what's the top performing post that's in our blog right now, who's viewing what, who's visiting what, right? So this is something that you can also think about in your workflow. And another good thing is that workers are different. It's built on CPU compute rather than tokens, right? And it costs so much lesser than that, right? To run, it costs like probably cents every month, right? So you can read the documents. And the good part, if you're already on the business and enterprise plan, then you can try it out now already. It's already out, right? So, yeah. So here's the default stack that I want you guys to also think about whenever you building workers, is to combine workers with dashboards as well. And imagine sync workers being the person that pulls the data, and then Notion database holds the data for you, right? It provides a single source of truth for you, and then a Notion dashboard sits on top of that, and you can view it in different ways for your team, for yourself, for your clients, and Notion AI answers the questions for you and your team. So this is an example of how I use, right? You can see the data here is sync, and I'm just like querying it. Like what's the top performing post? Simple, right? And the good thing is, because it's sync, you always get updated answers whenever you run a worker on a schedule, just like how we do it, right? Okay, just show of hands, who here use automation tools like Zapier, N8N? Okay, quite a few of you. Okay, so if you guys already use Zapier, understand. For me as well, right, I didn't learn Zapier automatically. My founder, Dennis, from Workflowers, he's the one that actually created the workers, and he's very much the Zapier expert. So for myself to understand Zapier is a little bit complex also, because I didn't come from that background. So there was a lot of things inside of Zapier that I didn't understand. And it took a while for me to actually think about like what goes where and everything. Whereas we are so used to agents just talking back and forth, right? So the good thing about using Zapier is that it's very deterministic, whereas agents feel a bit more reason-based. Like if I tell you, hey, this data should go to someone, define that for me, right? Whereas if it's a Zapier or an end-to-end user, it's very much like A to B to C. So you can think of workers as the solution for that deterministic workflow where things are, you don't have to reason about it and decide where you want it to go. You just need to tell it like, oh, okay, for this data, I'm just going to pull this data and update the database, something like that. Okay, so now I'm going to show you another problem that we have, which is, just to show you guys, this is our CRM. Pretty much for Workflowers, our CRM list in Notion, you can see we have our contacts, our emails, our proposals. You can't see the details, obviously, so this is important for us because we want to be able to keep track of who we conversate with. And this information has to be accurate, right? And one of the things that we faced, although this is a very small issue for us, was the AI meeting notes. So we also do a lot of meetings with clients as well. And one of the things that we don't have was the ability to sync, to pull out the attendees email and update our CRM, right? And the CRM contact, what we want to be able to do is whenever we use the meeting note, it automatically updates the right contact. Though that one, it looks a bit like cool, right? But there's not, there's no native automations for that. So Nicholas, yeah, maybe go on it. But we do find a workaround for it. What we did was to actually, so it was the Zapier workaround. It's a bit blur, but basically what, you can see there's a lot of steps. The issue that we face also is like edge cases. One of the things is, number one, if something happens, you don't know where the thing falls through the cracks, right? Whereas, so what we did was we tried to use a worker to solve this issue. So it's a much more simpler step, right? So the step that we did was when a new meeting was being created, it automatically triggers and sends a webhook. So in Notion, you can trigger that to a worker, and then the worker will pull and match it with a Google Calendar event, see the title. After it sees the title, then it will update our database. Yeah. Again, if this sounds a bit too complex, you can always describe your workflow to a coding agent, right? And then have it come up with the solution for you. Right, nowadays also I work with AI a lot. I talk to AI most of the time now. Some days my wife tell me like, hey, who are you talking to? I say like, no, I'm just chatting with my AI. So this is the solution that we can also provide. So Zapier and Notion Worker, the same workflow, is just that it's much more easier to absorb. Like if something goes wrong, you can just tell the coding agent like, hey, this is what I don't want it to do. Can you fix it for me, right? Whereas go to Zapier and then figure out where the thing falls through. I need to settle a lot of things here. So this is before Zapier for us at Workflowers, right? Number one, I'm sure we'll talk about cost a lot. Yeah, so with Zapier, we are on this plan. If we can also like reduce the amount of contacts with workers, especially. You can see on the left side before, the most important thing is like this ambiguity of not knowing what is going wrong. And it's take a lot of your time. I think when we are building systems, right, we talk about like what kind of AI earns our keep, right? What kind of data matters to us? How can we actually build better workflows? So in case of like all these issues, like we have to do stuff manually, we can now use it with a coding agent. And instead of working like an animal, you know, like where we always have to constantly like push through every single time, try to do things manually anymore. Now we have workers to help us with that, right? So we think now and agents execute. That's the game. So if you're still confused and you still want to learn more, I do run an office hour session every Thursday. If you want to scan my calendar, you can feel free to join my session. My session 1 is coming up tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. And if you want to know more about events, please follow our NotionSG community. Our ambassadors here will be there to help you along the way. Yep, so that's my presentation. So this is the GitHub. I'll just leave this for a few seconds. And also, if you guys want some stickers, we got our Workflower stickers, so just promote a bit for Workflowers. You can get the stickers there, and Ernest, he's wearing the blue color t-shirt with our logo. You can talk to him as well if you have any questions that you want to ask. Yeah, and that's it for my presentation. Thank you so much.
All right. Before I start with mine, I like to keep the community events fun. So let's start with a bit of a game. Can everyone be up on their feet? I'm going to ask 5 questions, all right? If you say yes to these questions, stay standing. If you are not, take a seat. And we'll see who's the last one standing, all right? Have you used Notion since 2025? All right, 2023? 2021? I see a few seated down. So if you guys can remember Nicholas' timeline of things, 2021 is probably about Notion 2.0, around Notion 2.0. Have you ever built a custom agent on Notion? Okay, more sat down. I see some still standing, which is amazing. And the last one will be, have you used presentation mode on Notion? Wow, yeah! I see the ambassadors, Randy and Nicholas. Guys, we gotta award him something. Yay! All right, great. So we got to know the within the community, like how familiar you are with the topics we are speaking about today. But let me reintroduce myself. I'm Jesslyn. In the night, I am a Notion ambassador. In the day, I do have a day job. I work in consulting. I build enterprise AI products there. And you guys might know from the news, they keep saying that AI would take white-collar jobs, and then they stare at us. So today I'll be presenting to you my Notion Worker use case regarding one of the key functions of what you might think a consultant would do. Slides. All right, so I do have this occupational hazard. I would go around events, right, sneakily pull out my phone, take photo of fancy slides. I think it is a bit of a consulting illness. So every good consultant I know has a full sort of folder of fancy deck images. And if you can see over here, shout out to the Long AI people. Actually, like about half of them were from Long AI events. Yeah, so because I've attended kind of a few of them, I enjoyed the presentation, so I actually do keep them as inspiration. Right now, I have this sort of fancy inspiration deck saved inside my Notion as a database. And unfortunately, you might know, in the consulting business, we can't use presentation mode in Notion, right? And so they hire people like me to sit behind the PowerPoint and move and drag boxes and triangles. All right, so as a result, there really had to be a smarter way to do things, because not only did I, like my day job, that I have to make these decks, I actually do build enterprise AI products. I want to be in the team thinking about how to build the POCs, thinking about how to strategize with clients. And if you can see over here, this is about like the percentage at which I spend my time. Like I spend too much time on formatting my decks, and especially getting like revisions after revisions, when I really want to be thinking about the product, or even like data analysis and actually like building something with my team. So I went to think to myself, what if Notion can become my presentation engine, given that, well, most of all my inspiration decks already exist on Notion, as well as like when my projects come about, my direct internal team, we do use Notion to build, say, like keep the content of like who our clients are or like what the products need to be built to be. So the project page is already there. What if I can combine both of them and maybe with a click of a button, it turns into like a HTML or PowerPoint slide deck that I can immediately just bring to my client. And so I sort of built this architecture with custom agent and Notion workers. First, I have it's a bit small here, but I'll talk through it. I built a basic custom agent. So every time I see those inspiration decks, it sort of runs through the image, it reads the image, it converts it into sort of like a HTML template, it saves it inside a database. I'll go through a bit more later. From that inspiration deck, I also then pull out from my project page, have a big custom agent there to sort of select which is the best inspiration deck to use, populate the content from my project, and then after that, with workers converting it out to a HTML or a PowerPoint at the end. And so maybe the first one I'll show you guys is the basic custom agent. Just now I saw some of the people sitting down already, so it's a reintroduction to custom agents for some of you guys. Let me open it big. So this is my inspiration deck page. I've made it such that every time I sort of upload an image of a deck, it will call my custom agent. It will fill up the different types of categories that I need to populate a deck with. The two important fields will be that it creates a HTML template, as well as it identifies the slots in which you put the content in. All right, so it has other tags which help me sort of like understand what the slide is supposed to be about and helps the AI make a decision onto which deck it uses. All right, so the first part is really getting the specific instructions to sort of have a clean parameterized HTML. You can even take a photo of this if you want to build this for yourself. This is like my specific instructions. And why I've built this as a separate basic custom agent first is because I kind of want to optimize my token usage. You can imagine if it has to go into this inspiration deck each time to read images, it's going to kill my payment schemes. And so that's why I sort of want to build this first, so that every time I run it, it just reads the HTML and fills in the slots. All right, so that's the first part. After that, with Notion Worker Tools, I built custom code attached to my custom agent. So I'll show you this in detail later, but it's sort of broken up into two. First, my custom agent would go into the inspiration deck, so it reads the HTML field that I told you guys were very important, and selects the best fit. It then fills in the slot, taking content from whichever project page that I want. After that, my worker, which is on code, will convert it to HTML. It pushes, because it's on HTML, it pushes it to a host. So I actually use a Vercel blob for this. I know I sort of missed the Monday event, but this was so convenient. I kind of want to tell the Vercel people this was so easy for me to just do. And it creates a link for me, returns onto Notion, where I can then see it on like my local browser. Right? So let me show you guys in full. So from my inspiration deck, I would then go into, say, my project page, AI governance cycle, life cycle, boring stuff. I go in, I type in like, okay, I want my HTML formulator to sort of build this deck. It goes in, it reads, on the side, like it tells me, on the side it tells me like, okay, this is a proposal. If you were to do this, I would recommend these certain slides. And for this use case, I'm only going to choose one slide to build, which is a life cycle slide. And what they do is immediately goes in, okay, done. All I have to do is click, and I have sort of my HTML deck built for me from just a few prompts. All right? Thank you. Thank you. So this HTML generated in 4 minutes from my Notion page, which my team and I already exist on. And it usually had to take me, say, 4 hours to build this up if I didn't have this capability, right? So the behind the scenes of this is, I think, for those who are more interested in the back, in the code stuff, I just went to Cloud Code. I told them, hey, I kind of want to build this. Can you write a TypeScript for me so that my worker would know? And so if you can see in this screen, they've told me like, okay, these are the steps, step 1, 2, 3, take my secret. At the bottom, I wanted to show the terminal in which the Notion workers exist. And as like Nicholas and even Nashri mentioned, all I had to do was write this TypeScript, type in Notion workers deploy. It reads everything, puts it onto Notion's cloud, so I don't need to host it at all, which is amazing. And like literally, that's just one terminal line, one script that I sort of generated from Cloud Code, and that's it. Yeah. That's it. Of course, within here, I did a bit of a scroll up and down. You can see like some more technical stuff, like there is this thing called Tiny Mustache Subset Renderer. That's actually not the key point. There is like the ability for like them to upload my Vercel blob, normalize my data, return the actual tool, which is this, if you can see over here. The actual tool, and sort of return my link back to Notion, which is whatever I told you in the architecture itself. All right? Okay. And how that looks for me after building this worker itself is that I just need to add it back to my custom agent. It is, after deploying it with Notion Worker, it's sort of from the cloud of Notion Worker, it knows that it's registered under my account. So all I needed to do is go all the way in. Oh, it was too fast. But you can see over here, under connections, it reads that I've already sort of deployed my feature of fancy HTML. Just need to add it in, and this whole custom agent is equipped with the custom code that I just built on and deployed on Notion Worker. So now some of you might wonder, how about PowerPoint, which is the backbone of all decks? And this is one of my favorite memes. Well, I actually had thought about this quite thoroughly. So it is possible, but it's very, very code heavy, also token heavy, because a generated PowerPoint cannot be completely reliant on the inspiration deck that I want it to be reliant on. So if you immediately just get it to convert into PowerPoint, it will probably give you something that is very text heavy. If you've ever seen any consulting deck, it is diagrams, numbers heavy, and that is what I really wanted to sort of emulate with my solution, because that's the pain point that I have for my day-to-day. So the goal was to learn these layouts from the inspiration deck, to convert it into the PowerPoint. But the reality is, right now, PowerPoint needs so it's not a Notion or AI problem. PowerPoint itself needs very precise geometry to sort of have sort of reusable layout primitives. And right now, the only available open source library that I found is this one called PowerPoint Gen.js. And you can see it sounds very boring as well. Like I genuinely struggled with this open source library for a bit. So basically, what I tried to go around with it is by using this library, instead of finding exactly what my layout is in my inspiration, it just found the next closest layout within the library itself. But unfortunately, that still is quite not the best. I can show it to you. I still build it. So what happened is, within the my project page itself, I do a very similar workflow. So I go in, I click a build deck, I let my agents run. It's actually only one agent, so if you see here, this has two. It's because I had my old one, my draft agent running at the same time. And it did the same thing for how the HTML one worked, basically just returning me back the file inside my Notion itself. But when you click it, when I click it, it downloads into my local, and it comes out something like this. All right? And if you can see, this is very light, very text, no diagrams at all. And I really tried. So it could be a me problem, by the way. If you have any ideas, happy to discuss. But as a result, I made the conclusion that, well, I still have my job. Everyone, I have my job. Yeah! And I could have done that same deck with lesser water, so I didn't need AI for it. And I guess my take as a passionate Notion fan here is that something like generating a PowerPoint straight from Notion itself is possible, but it does kind of look quite generic. I feel, my own opinion, that Notion workers shine when enriching data that is already in Notion itself. Say, PowerPoint generation leans heavily on these external libraries that I talked to you about. So it sort of lessens the value of Notion as sort of that middle layer. If you are still interested in like generating a PowerPoint slide, maybe something that is more better for your workflow would be going through like Claude straight and giving them your Notion project page to do it for you, rather than going through, say, workers or custom agents. I've tried that before. They also do generate like relatively generic, but a bit more, slightly more like complex diagrams that I kind of want. But happy to chat more if you have any opinion on this. This is just my own take, given that I've been trying to build this use case for myself. But overall, as also a Notion fan, but I think the real win here is with the developer platform. I kind of feel that Notion has been building both the AI brain and body. Notion has been always like the second brain to everyone who has known it since maybe 2021. But now with the body, now with the custom agents, the body is not just your arms and legs of MCPs, but having the ability to put a custom code behind. So the example here is that you don't only give it arms and legs, you give it prosthetic knife arms, or you give it fairy wings, and it's up to your imagination. Right? So that's my take for Notion developer platform, as well as Notion. Happy to discuss more if you have ideas, especially for that presentation engine. All right, thank you. I'm going to hand my time to Mikey for our Q&A with Randy.
Okay, so the first question is about Notion AI and agents. So a lot of people here today, they're non-technical. And Notion has been shipping a lot of AI features in the past years. And we want to know, for non-technical people here, can you paint a picture of what AI agent inside Notion actually does? Maybe focus on Notion AI agent and Notion custom agent, the key differentiation.
Well, first of all, I'm just really happy to be here. So thanks for having me. This is super fun. And also the presentations are really, it's enjoyable to see. It's satisfying to see people using the product you build and doing creative work with it. Also, I'm just like really impressed. It's super awesome. So thank you. Okay, so Notion AI. Think about this at a few levels. At the first level, this is not where Notion AI started, but I'll explain how to think about it today. First, I think about your Notion AI agent as your personal agent, available only to you, and it can has permission to do everything you do if you choose to ask it to. And so maybe the first good mental model is anything a human can do in Notion, it can do. So you can almost picture in your mind Notion agent using the Notion interface. Not that it literally does that, but you can imagine if I want to write text, I want to format that text. I want to move that text around. I want to create a database. I want to add properties to that database. I want to change and update those properties. I want to link one database to another. I want to change data sources. I want to sync them. I want to
Kind of like your minion.
yeah, you can think about it as that. And so all of the layers of sophistication that can exist in Notion, and as you sort of peel back the layers, you discover it's quite sophisticated. Notion agent can do. It can also do very simple things. And often it's the combination of these in sequence or in series that really starts to unlock things, whether it's to quickly and easily get started doing something or to process a bunch of data, etc. So a custom agent is both, so you think about it as a new agent you initiate. You can give it a name and a cute avatar that makes it fun to refer to and gives you a little smile as you see an existing Notion interface. But the real power of Notion custom agents is one, they operate on very simple instructions. Effectively, a Notion document that describes what you'd like for it to do but not do. But also, I would think about them as expanding what is possible because they are shareable. So Notion AI is for you. A custom agent can be for whoever you want it to be in your workspace. So it can be only for you also, it would be fine. But also you could give it permission and access for others to see the results of it, to interact with it, or even to modify it so it becomes another sort of canvas for collaboration. So that way it can be quite expansive. The other way, you can constrain it. And this is also sort of an advantage, right? And by constrain it, what I mean is you can identify that a custom agent can only act on certain things, can only see certain things, whether those are inside Notion itself, or you can also connect them to outside connectors and services. So to maybe give you a really concrete example, then you can make a Notion custom agent. We do something like this very often. It might connect to our Slack account. We would say you can only listen to these 5 public channels. And you can only post back to this one private channel. Okay? So by being really specific about what the custom agent can do, you actually sort of unlock a bunch of possibilities, right? It's no longer this sort of non-deterministic, wide-ranging cloud of...
But with governance.
Exactly. Yeah. And so in this case, I might say, oh, listen to all these product feedback channels, or just these channels people use to work on their project. Summarize what you're hearing, right? Make a log of each one of these pieces of product feedback you see in this Notion database, only the specific one, I give you permission to write to it, and then summarize that and share it back into this private Slack channel that's maybe shared amongst a team that cares about that particular word. And so you can start to see how you can develop specific workflows, specific use cases with custom agent. So constraining it, sharing it with other people, connecting it to outside services, and it becomes like a collaboration.
I think that's a really good way to summarize the custom agent that you can share. Because sometimes you spend a lot of time building complicated workflow for your custom agent, and then you can share that complicated workflow with your teammate or your colleagues to use exact same workflow.
Exactly. I mean, what I think what teams often discover somewhat organically or becomes emergent. Let's say I have a simple operational task like the one I'm describing, or I want to triage some things. So I'm thinking about it first from sort of saving time or effort, right? Or I couldn't sort of see or monitor everything, so it's the agent can see more than I can. But in your instructions for what the agent does with what it sees, you start codifying your own thinking or your organization or your cultural thinking. And what then starts to happen is other people can use that custom agent is they're sort of repeating the same kind of thinking or decisions you would make around that same information. So it becomes a tool for kind of like cultural extension and sort of codifying best practices. What used to be, I maybe write down a guideline in a document and say, hey, everyone, read this guideline and follow these rules. And then, people say thanks, and half of them read it, and half of those people remember what they read, and, this is helpful, but not entirely effective. Not so different, I'm kind of writing instructions for the agent. It looks a lot like a guideline I would have written in pre-AI days.
Yeah, it's like a page.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now the agent is acting on those and making decisions consistently. So it's already doing that work. But then typically if it's writing it back to a database or posting it in a Slack channel, I'm also seeing the evidence of it doing that work.
Yep.
So you're adding back to the context available to the agents all of this work that's reflective of what we believe good decision making or a good process looks like.
Yeah. If you guys haven't tried custom agent, I recommend that you try custom agent on Notion. You can fine tune, customize it when you want it to be triggered. You can do a custom instruction for it. And then like Randy has mentioned, you can specify what document, what kind of pages, what databases that it has access to. All right, moving on to the next questions. So the most recent feature that you ship is Notion Developer Platform, and there's a lot of confusion on how or what does it unlock for us as a non-tech people. So can you give us what the Notion Developer Platform can do for non-tech people, and how can we get started on it?
Oh, sure. Okay. So, one, the developer platform first is created for developers, right? So it's actually created for a technical audience, which is the first time Notion's really done something like that. I mean, we've had API for a long time. It's really inviting a new sort of customer group and audience into the community in a special way. So that's important to recognize. You shouldn't feel like you have to use these tools if you're not technical.
I feel left behind. I haven't started using it.
No, you couldn't at all. So then say, how can this be used, or how is it advantageous to a non-technical user audience? Well, one, I think we will see very quickly sort of a proliferation of new tools and resources available across Notion that developers have created and made, but still share with that same sort of spirit and sense of community. You'll be able to take advantage of that. That's awesome. So you may end up more on consuming than creation side.
Okay.
Helpful to you, surely. And the second is that many aspects of it can be interfaced with or taken advantage of in non-technical ways. I think what we were just looking at with both workers and tools, you could think of the construction of workers and tools in both of these concepts as essentially vibe coding inside Notion.
Yeah.
So if you can describe in some simple language what you hope it to be able to do or to accomplish, Notion AI will tell you back how to achieve that.
Yep.
If I'm doing that with a custom agent with some simple instructions, you can imagine the same thing with a worker. Say, I want to get this data in and out of Notion. You'll say, oh, do you have an API key for that? You might say, I don't know what an API key is. Oh, API
Explain.
key is, here you go get it. Copy and paste this here, put it in this. So it'll kind of walk you through building a custom integration with an outside service. And then you can give it instructions for what to do with that. So I think you don't have to be technical. Although some of the other features, let's say a command line interface, which is quite powerful, you can just appreciate that it exists and not have to use it. Although, like most tools today, I think if you just say, I don't understand what a CLI is, how can it be helpful to me? Probably in 5 minutes you'll learn some things. You're like, actually, I do want to use this, and I can kind of cross this gap that I thought was maybe a technical, non-technical divide. All of these things are quite learnable. Yeah.
So can I summarize that? Just don't feel pressure to use or jump into Notion Developer Platform, but focus on your challenges and use cases through whatever AI, Notion AI that already have existed.
I think maybe like a giant meta trend for everything that's happening for, our own work we're doing ourselves, these features we're making, kind of the moment we're living through with a lot of kind of powerful AI tools, is most of the value and magic is kind of happening when the solutions are emergent from the problems we have. We're really just diving in and trying to figure out a thing we want to make happen and iterate up from there. I think kind of coming in with sort of some master plan from the top, or being, I want to develop some hypothetical use case to use all these things in some abstract way. I would say not as successful, not as fun, not as rewarding. Like you get the dopamine hit by the solving your own problem in a really like
Not really.
bottoms up way.
Yeah.
And then you start to learn from doing that, maybe some common ways that you can start to apply to other situations.
Okay, all right, got it. Moving on. So let's talk about design philosophy in the age of AI.
Okay.
So you come from a very deep design background, 7 years at Etsy, 3 years at Grab. How does Notion design team think about building AI-powered features that still feel simple and human?
I think the in some ways principles are unchanged. And I think that's an important thing to kind of recognize. I think there's new technology happening, of course, so it feels like the ground is shifting.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to take our job. Look at all these new capabilities. But some of the really fundamental principles underneath remain unchanged.
Can you give us some examples?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, often people think about, simplicity and sort of minimalism and these things, and it's not an end in and of itself, but really about focusing on showing just enough, right? To sort of, in our case, try to render interface or content on the screen to the user that is only what they are either asking for or may likely want in this moment, right? And so how that changes in an AI world is maybe a lot of these moments become, they're feeling more like chat interaction at the moment. So some of the modalities of the interaction are different, the information density changes, but the underlying principle is kind of the same. Another is that the form factor should be suggestive of how you interact with it. And when you do, you should get feedback that's reflective of what you're expecting. Again, we're kind of seeing this in chat environment a lot. You can see a lot of iteration in Notion AI as well. If you make a request, we're sort of trying to indicate what the AI is doing.
Trying to do, yeah.
Yeah. It's thinking, what tools it's using. This is kind of a constant balance because the models are progressing a lot. We're able to do many things quickly, but of course, to sit and look at something that goes may quickly give you the impression that a lot is happening.
Yeah.
But if we want you to understand what is happening, sort of speed or volume actually isn't the right message. So we need to sort of consolidate or summarize some of those messages into sort of like meaningful prose or visuals that reflect it. And then sometimes when it's delivered back to you, I think we talk about this a lot actually, right? Wow, that looks like a list. Okay, that looks like another list. One looks like a list, and there's sort of sets of structured markdown where divisions in content starts to look a lot just like walls of text, and that can become a sort of blur of information over time. So you'll start to see this happening in Notion today. You start to render things back from the agent, produce content that is really wrapped in UI. Right? It becomes much more like an object or a container. It's got potentially a call to action, and things can be expanded.
Yep.
And so they start to evolve towards it's a mini page inside the chat. You'll see very soon things like email authoring, calendar scheduling, like these UIs that you're familiar with. Come back from LM. Even though the original output
still the
essentially
same.
marked down.
Yeah.
We're starting to wrap it up in UI that is familiar to you. We sometimes use this test to apply in very graphic designy ways too. You just kind of look at something from a distance and can kind of sense, communicate what it is, almost like wayfinding or something. When you think about if I were to glance at your phone from here, maybe I'm 24 inches away. Oh, I used inches. That's fine. This much. If I were to just quickly glance over and then keep talking with you, does what I see on that screen, I didn't read anything. I just kind of took it in as visual information. Is it indicative of the implied function and utility? Right? This is a very visual graphic designing answer to some interface design interaction things. But when you have to imagine that most users are doing things like, I start typing to Notion AI, and then I get an Instagram notification, and then I tap it, and then I type a reply back, and then somebody calls me, and then my alarm goes off, and then swipe back to Notion AI. This is how we really use software. Where I'm swiping between multiple tabs on things. I've got multiple tabs in my browser. And what it looks like should, at kind of a sensed level, not in I read the information level, but in a sensed way, indicate like what it is, what it's doing, what content is there, what functionality might come next. So you start to think a lot about how you package up the visual form so that it is recognizable in what it is. Yeah. So you create like systems that feel consistent and then distinctiveness for all of the different functions and behaviors within that consistent system. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any hardest design trade-off that you had to make recently?
That's interesting. I would say the hardest trade-offs lately have to do with how much information to reveal or not. Actually, what you're describing, like how around the thinking, the tools calls, the processing, outside, if you're kind of having the agent, look at the internet for things. How much kind of attribution and detail, sort of while the reasoning is happening, and then how much to provide once it's done by default. Because the answer is actually different styles of information we actually have provided different ways. You'll notice if you're asking certain kinds of questions or doing certain kinds of things, you'll get different ranges of answers. This is very difficult because there's sort of front-end performance implications. There's the speed at which text moves by you on the screen. There's a lot of kind of trade-offs in here, and there's definitely a kind of taste and feel component of this.
Yep.
People process information in different ways, so it's very challenging to have like one answer.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. And I think a lot of people ask these questions before coming into this event is, do you have any practical power user tips for them on how to use Notion? Anything that is underrated Notion features or workflow that they should try that will 10x their productivity on Notion? Any personal tips from you?
Use presentation. It is both very powerful. It's also like intentionally quite stripped down in statistics. It doesn't meet all of your needs. Fun power tip on that one though. Now on any block on a page, if you leave presentation open, you want to re-enter, you just go to any block and say present from here. That was a fast user request. I think actually it's an important behavioral one. I think this applies to a lot of systems today, not just Notion, but it's true. I think we passed through a time in which you need to think very hard about what you essentially entered into the AI chat box. For a little bit, we called this prompt engineering. I don't know. Some people probably have prompt engineers job titles and got a raise, so that's good for them. Let's keep that up. But I actually think that in some ways we're kind of past that moment and sort of unlearning some of those habits. The systems have gotten more sophisticated. The scaffolding that we've put in place. Asking really dumb questions can actually be extremely helpful. Like, don't try to solve it all. You can actually say, I would like to make a software feature with Notion's help. Where should I start? And
don't overcomplicate your prompt.
You will get very good quality answers or questions that walk you through kind of how to reason about it along with AI.
That's kind of counterintuitive because I thought that you have to provide as much context to your AI as much as possible.
Well, the beauty is if you've got a bunch of stuff sitting around in Notion, all of the context is there.
That's why you start using your AI agent on Notion.
If you kind of treat it as a system of record, you have a bunch there, or it's connected to a lot of external services. You've connected to your email, you've connected to your Google Drive, you've connected to Slack, you've connected to Microsoft services, whatever it might be. You made some workers, you got your custom API integrations. That context is sort of sitting there for you. If you made a custom agent that has limited that to only certain Slack channels, it's quite precise in here now. You don't need to then say remind me what this person was working on between these dates and this. There's a lot of sort of assumed context. So you've probably asked a bunch of questions before. You can just say tell me what they're working on.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say really keeping it simple to begin with can be quite a power shortcut.
Okay, so to summarize is to not to overcomplicate your prompt in Notion AI agent and just start asking just very simple questions. Okay, all right. And then the last questions that some of people would like to know is that, would you like to share your career story a little bit for the audience? A lot of people are interested to know.
No, well, I appreciate it. I'm laughing. You're like, oh, it's just like one last question. You're like, man, I'm getting old. Yeah, what are the important parts of this? I'll try to keep it very brief, but I think okay, it goes like this. I got into design through music, and this, there's an important thread, even I think has continuity with how we think about design today at Notion. I got into design through music, and one, I was involved in music because it was fun, I enjoyed it, it made me feel things, I liked the challenge of like you try stuff and you figure it out.
What instrument do you play?
Mostly guitar. Took piano lessons as a kid. I didn't like it. I was very mad that I had to go to piano lessons, and my mom made me. And then later, I was very thankful that I did that. There's probably some lesson in there too. What I learned through that experience when I was much younger is one, you get sort of a community of people together. You have like multiple people you're collaborating with, you're sort of being creative and improvising. That's just like an extremely rewarding experience. And this is kind of what it feels like to try to, create a startup, to try to organize a community, to work with a team inside a company. It's all kind of some version of creative improvisation, collaboration. But also it's really helpful if you kind of see it the same way. Sometimes you describe it that way. I mean, the music version of myself, you'd never write this down. It's like not punk rock enough. But really, you have some shared vision. You're working towards some common goal. You typically kind of fall in love with the problem and work really, really hard on it because you derive a lot of, you're sort of intrinsically motivated to do it. And I think that's carried me through, like these same ideas have kind of carried me through many chapters in my professional life. Because basically, we're doing the thing because we love it more than anything else. And then, not just like that we love the idea of doing it, but actually the act of doing the work is like pretty darn satisfying. So you like wake up and you want to work on it. Turns out if that's true, you work on it a lot, you work on it harder, and you get better at things by basically having a practice of doing them over and over again. Your craft gets better, your thinking gets better, you get quick, you get smoother, you get more confident, you can tackle bigger things more easily because it feels like familiar.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of like stacking up these wins. So I'll pause 1 second. The other important detail is really like understanding how the thing you are working with works. I think music is very much like this to me. My early experiences with design and kind of graphic design were all very print related. And I learned quickly, especially when I was learning like screen printing, like understanding how paper absorbs ink, how kind of like wet this ink is, but also the order in which you would print the colors, or the way you can like physically adjust it. You can impact the design beyond your sort of initial visual idea.
Are you talking about mastering your own craft?
Exactly, right? When you understand the materials with which the thing is made, then you can more comfortably and confidently like manipulate those materials. You can work around shortcomings. You can sort of creatively misuse the thing.
Yep.
Which is exactly what we were doing like in the early days of just putting stuff on the internet and early like web applications. You're like, cool. So there's one way to do this. I can kind of shortcut this over here. That's how we did early kind of, everybody getting to know like HTML and CSS and JavaScript and starting to understand like web standards and accessibility and these things. They're all from just to understand like, I don't know, having a desire to stick something on the internet and then learning how that works. And you sort of stack up that knowledge over time. And I think we're living through another similar moment now. It's just like, what really is an LLM? How does it work? How are they trained? These are complicated at first, but it's all, you can break it all down into small parts. And if you understand the material you're working with, you can manipulate it and work with it and take creative advantage of it. Yeah.
Was there any point in your career that you think it's expedite or accelerate your career? It's a long time ago.
I mean, this feels like another one of those. I think definitely when there's sort of technology shifts, this happens. I think like kind of the mobile moment and the kind of app store moment was like this. I mean, one just kind of just dates me so much, but just a bunch of things sort of going online for the first time was a real moment like that. Speaking of creatively working around things, like when I was in bands and like music streaming with someone early. It was a service called like mp3.com. They had like a great referral system in its early days, and we would get paper checks in the mail because we basically had kind of like funny like referral ring with other bands. And
Right.
like referral stuff people get download, you get like a penny for every download. And
Yeah.
We were just like high school kids trying to. It was basically like extra gas money, but
Yeah.
we were pumped. We found a temporary loophole. In,
Yeah. Making money.
But I think these technology shifts probably accelerated things, and then the other is when you're just surrounded by people who are extremely good, it just accelerates your learning. I've always been really drawn towards other like talented people, I guess, and being very comfortable being like the dumbest person in the room. You know, just like most naive, most open to learning. You're like, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And you're in that environment, you just get like lifted up, and you feel like you grow very quickly.
Keep an open-minded
Yeah.
and then keep learning.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Should we open up to the floor to ask questions? Do you guys have any questions for Randy so that I'll pass the mic to you? Yes.
Hi, I'm Preksha, and thank you so much for the talk. I was just curious, you mentioned that some of the dev modes are not for general users who are actually using Notion, time to time just to organize their tasks. But recently there are a lot of AI coming into picture, a lot of softwares, and people are curious to try these things out.
Sure.
And in my experience, if we try it out and if it doesn't work, we feel like, oh, are we doing something wrong? Is there something we don't know that other people know? And you mentioned it correctly, maybe all platforms are not for everyone. So how do you, as a designer, how do you differentiate that feature that, okay, this feature exists in Notion, but it's not for you? How can you design it in a way that it communicates perfectly to the user?
Well, that's interesting. No, I like that. How does it communicate perfectly to the user? I wish. No. No, we try. I think that, if you've used Notion some, you can definitely, there's probably a hierarchy part of this in some ways. There are many, you click on any one of these sort of three-dot menus or settings in parts of Notion, there's a very long list of things you can do, and there's features that are, maybe some automations on a database or things that are quite buried in some way. Right? They're not particularly discoverable for a casual user. And that's a pretty intentional choice in a way, because they're somewhat advanced. If someone wishes to use them, we believe that they will seek them out. And once you find them, you know how to use them, then you can come back to them, and then you often discover that there's other easier ways to get to them, and you kind of know what you're looking for. That is intentional. I think when we think about these maybe new features, I think we have an audience in mind when we create them, right? Or a certain user archetype. But we also don't intend to constrain anything. So I would say you can and should try those things, and you'll discover if it's for you or not. I wouldn't want anyone to look at it and say, oh, that's not for me. I'm going to say, oh, maybe this is for me. And it goes back to that simple question of what does this feature do? This works great in Notion today. It's true. I was at a dinner last night with the founder of a financial services product here in Singapore. He had a very particular question about some reporting he was trying to do in Notion. For regulatory reasons, this is the best part. He's like, oh, I have to deliver these reports to MAS, and I'm always doing it this particular way. And I was like, there's got to be an easier way. And I just pulled out Notion AI app on my phone, and I was like, I'm pretty sure we can do this with the CLI we just released. Can we do this? And then just spit out exactly what the command should be on the command line interface, and I handed it across the table to him. He was like, yeah, that'll work. He's like, I didn't know the answer. But I thought, yeah, there's probably an answer. Let me just ask. It goes back to this kind of dumb questions. So will AI put me out of a job? Maybe. It'll basically tell you ask really dumb questions. You'll work your way towards an answer. But I don't know, like, back to your question, I don't know that there's some perfect way of doing this. There's hierarchy of how and when things are reviewed. There's probably also an experiential design part of this. We understand other things about a user, the way they've come into the product, what other activity is happening in their workspace. It's likely to be that you'll take advantage of or need certain features in some ways if you have many users in your workspace versus fewer, things like this. And maybe in kind of a fun or silly way, but true, you'll see that all of this developer platform stuff kind of has this new visual language. This is just simple visual communication kind of stuff. There's a vocabulary that's happening that says like these features are kind of these super technical ones. And that might be a cue for some users to be like, oh, that's for me or not. But we've also done them in kind of this silly, fun way that I think it probably draws other people into. I don't know, if you go to the developer platform homepage and scroll to the bottom, you can play a little Mario-style developer game, which I guess implies you shouldn't, it's not only for serious work, yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
thank
Thank you so
you.
much for answering.
Hi, Randy. Thank you so much for your talk. My name is Zoe. I came from a fintech background. Currently trying to explore some stuff on my own with the call and possibility Notion. My question is coming from a background from the design and also the music industry. I wonder what are the most interesting use case we have seen so far because of the enablement of AI, especially for the non-tech founder so far. And if so, what are the traits that those people possess or choices they make that make those use cases very interesting compared to the SaaS stage?
Oh, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think we see a lot of fun emergent stuff at kind of whether it's your personal OS kind of environment or sort of personal obsessions. I think that there's lots of great sort of examples that come out of individuals who are trying to accomplish a lot. Right? Maybe you could relate to that. They have sort of very ambitious endeavors they're involved in, but only as an individual. So I think they've become highly motivated to operationalize and make efficient a bunch of things. And I think they really push up against some of the practicalities in some absurd ways, Kind of I wake up and I've got my daily guide and I'm just I do what the AI told me to do, kinds of things, like kind of personal optimization, integrations with interesting third-party things. I mean, Nicholas shared the kind of order my grocery example, but there's lots of other, kind of things like this. I think the more particular they are, the more interesting they are. I've got this pet with particular medical needs, and I'm tracking their behavior, and you're okay, now I've got a dashboard of my pet health over time. You're this actually becomes sort of meaningful improvement in someone's life, but it started with almost just a data obsession. Here's a silly example I made, but the first custom agent I built, not first custom agent, first worker I built, we were kind of prototyping workers. I use this, it's very relevant now since we're in the NBA finals, but I use Open API that has just all the game data from NBA games, both historical but forward-looking. So it's got schedules, who's playing, dates, and then I just used a bunch of sort of open and available resources, not via API around ancient wisdom, numerology, ancient religion, horoscopes, etc. And made a custom agent that uses that worker for me that basically gives advice on if one were to place sports bets.
That's what I do too.
Yeah. And you were to root those in what the weather is today and
correlations,
real or not, signals from the universe. It's pretty fun. I mean, it's just for play. But also, I don't know, if it makes you feel things or it makes you think different, then there's some real utility there. Yeah.
That is all for the Q&A for now. Of course, we are running a bit over time. If you do have questions, you can feel free to reach out to any one of the Notion staff or the ambassadors, the ones with beautiful jackets or big shift stickers. And thank you so much, Randy, for sharing.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, we could go for the next slide. Okay. This is not the end of it. There are going to be, I know Singaporeans love QRs, so we have a few coming up. So I think Laura and I have been such a great fun for us, so I think it's really amazing. Vicky? Oh yeah, Vicky actually runs, speaking of the spiritual horology thing, he is hosting a tarot card reading with AI on
Using Notion.
yes, but look out for Luma Notion Singapore, and he runs the event. I think it's like weekly now. It's going to be monthly.
Twice a month, twice a
So,
month.
okay, twice a month, bi-weekly. But all his events are really great. There's one coming up, Build and Brew, Build and Breathe, Build and Breathe. I think we're going to start running out of words soon, but they're all very, very wonderfully curated. So, those will be announced in the Telegram channel. And this is the gift. I know a couple of you here are startups, especially, and this is one of the gifts that Notion provides for startups. So if you're a startup that you're a legitimate startup with an actual professional domain, you will be eligible for this. And if you're not paying customer, so if you take a quick photo and then that is it. We have you have some networking time. Talk to each other. Talk to us. Talk to Lou and Sophia or me and any of the ambassadors who are here on the stage. Catch us all later. Thank you. Oh yeah, come on, take a photo.